Good evening. Warren Select Board meeting Wednesday, May 21st. Public comment. Anyone? Speak now.
Just that the road crews have been doing a great job at Airport Road.
They have, man. Went down yesterday morning and had half a road and came back yesterday afternoon and had a whole road.
Yeah.
Did your road get washed out?
The bottom of our road. got
Yeah,
washed
like
out.
the whole thing?
No, it's just a divot there, and
Yeah.
the culvert that goes under had about 8 feet of it sticking out with nothing around it.
Right.
Yeah.
So happy. Road.
Well,
And they
half
put in a
Airport
whole new
Road.
culvert the other day on the top.
What corner was it on?
What's that?
What corner?
We're the last stretch down there,
Okay,
so it was, yeah.
wow.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. And we'll talk more about that
Yeah.
later on. Any other public comment? Agenda changes.
I think so.
I think I want to add a pavilion update.
Great.
And we'll just talk about a couple things.
Yeah.
Please and thank you. Where do we want to put it? You want to do it right now?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
put it first.
Okay.
Whatever.
I didn't bring my hat though.
Devin, could
Any
you
other
give us a
agenda
pavilion update?
Well, the pavilion is up and going well. Taylor's been working really hard. And I have run into 2 snafus. Well, 3. One, this week, we've got our employees out sick. And my son, which puts me out. Oh, hi, Alice. And so it's just a little touch and go as far as timing is concerned. We're stressed. And the guy who was doing the railing bailed on Monday.
What? Why?
Because he doesn't have time. And didn't tell us until the last minute. So we'll do it. But it puts another project on our plate for the next week and a half.
There's nobody else that
Yeah, other
is around.
that could do it.
Well, it's metal work,
That's what I thought.
and it's stainless. I think
And you guys do that?
we have a full welding shop. So we can do it, and Taylor's excited about doing it. It's just, there's just a lot on our plate, and it's easy for people who aren't responsible to, not have to
Well, and we have
work only.
10 days left.
Yeah. So that's where we are. That's what's happening for us. We'll push. And I'm not responsible for however y'all want to communicate that or what you want to do about it. But we're working on it until it's complete.
Right.
And we've been working 14, 15-hour days. So 7 days a week.
Okay.
So the other question I have is about lighting. We had a plan that we were hopeful would come in within the budget allotted. And it doesn't look like it will. So I think we're gonna go back to the original conversation regarding lighting, which was to provide an outlet for string lighting and some kind of plug-in fixture, which will work for now. And if y'all want to change that or reapproach, that can be done after the fact.
Yeah.
But it won't have a switch or a photocell. It'll just be like a string light that you plug in and out.
And that wasn't that's what was originally spec'd anyway.
Well, it wasn't really specified. We sort of like had a placeholder.
I did more light. You can hear you, Alice.
Whoops. Did I say that too loud? You had an
did say
idea of
that
more
out loud.
lights back then, and I didn't know my mute was off, so I gotta get that, I guess. Because I'm in here cooking, and it's just like, you don't even want to see what I have on my PJs. But I mean, I just, okay, so you got me, but you know what? I think you guys, I'm giving you so much thank yous and acknowledgements for what you're all doing right now. These are incredible, stressful, seems like times. And then the flooding this week. No, it's remarkable. And that's why I came on, because I wanted to thank Rebecca for her response to my concerns last week. And I'll find mute here and shut up so you can, where is it? Down here, I think. Yeah, there.
Compliment us all you want.
Thank you, Alice.
No,
I agree, Rebecca.
I may be sounding like when I said that, yeah, you wanted more lights, but you guys did. Most of the people wanted a lot of lights under that. I think it's just beautiful the way it is. Doesn't need a lot of lights, and what you'll provide will be perfectly adequate. So now I'll shut up. Okay. Found it.
Thanks, Alice.
I mean, there will be power with ample opportunity to plug in any kind of lighting, right? Like if there's a show or there's a concert, or I mean, like you can do whatever you want. There'll be plenty of power and 6 outlets below and 1 above.
Yeah.
Can we add a switch later?
We can add anything. Later.
Okay.
And so, I mean, my hope as the builder is that y'all will be like, yeah, the LED lighting that you guys were planning on doing would be beautiful. It would be really great in there, like ambient lighting until 9 or 10 o'clock with a photo cell and a timer that goes off. And Kevin is ready and willing to provide some of that labor for free, which is an awesome opportunity. I just can't do it within the cap that's been provided.
Okay. It's probably, to me, the least important thing of getting it done, so let's just.
I would agree with that.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so the other element is just that, you know, we're hard on deadline.
Yep.
And we're working on the roof. We're gonna move to the decking next, and then the railing after that. And that means that if there is one thing outstanding, it will be those benches that we'll continue to work on, but they might not be done by the 31st.
What does that mean for our grant?
I don't know the answer to that.
What does that mean? For
It means that we would either need to ask for another extension, or we might run the risk of being out of compliance because the benches were part of the scope of work for the original grant, right? Yeah.
When you had the conversation, did you ever get to have a
Yeah,
conversation?
so she
with them?
said that it's completion is whatever the scope of work is that we originally asked for in the grant application.
Okay,
Benches were a part of that, railing
Yeah.
was a part of that.
Yep.
Lighting was a part of that.
If we
Yep.
called it out, we have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Compliance.
Yeah.
What can we do to get those things done? Can you bring
Uh,
other
find more
resources to
help.
bear?
I'm exhausting my resources. Jim showed up yesterday, the drop of a hat to help Taylor when Will couldn't come. I have childcare for the next 2 days and I will be here. I don't really have any other resources to pull into this. You know, I've already asked people and everyone's busy. So
So why don't we see where you're at next Tuesday night at the next select board meeting?
Okay.
And then if these two wanna go into executive session and have a conversation, maybe we'll have new members on board by then. Maybe we won't, but, you know, that would be my suggestion. Is that, you know, you've got basically the rest of this week and the weekend, Monday and Tuesday, and then you can give us an update Tuesday night.
Which is
Or
the
Benches
27th.
particularly
27th.
complicated.
no, they'll be simple and they'll go in pretty quickly thereafter. It's just, I only have so many days. Like,
Right.
I
I'm just
I
kind
can
of
only do
wondering
so
if
much.
that's something like the Harwood Wood Shop could do at the drop of a hat.
The Harvard Wood Shop isn't a wood shop anymore.
Wasn't it?
No, it got canceled.
Oh, okay. Well, the Northfield Wood Shop is not canceled.
They're built in place. So I don't know if that provides a challenge. I think, well, I don't know. We could ask Taylor about that, but we have all the material. It's sitting and waiting.
You just need able bodies.
I just need able bodies. Will has pink eye this week and his eye is like pretty much swollen shut,
Oh,
so
God.
that's not safe or helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a little bit beyond able bodies because I think what we've provided is a really beautiful structure and I wouldn't want just anyone to cobble something together. So we're working really hard and we're doing our best. And we'll keep doing it.
It looks beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does that work for you guys to maybe just do a check-in on the 27th?
Yeah. 100%.
Or maybe you know, have a phone call with these two, you and Taylor on Monday, just to check in about how far you got over the weekend and, whenever you're planning to work.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Including when he's supposed to be with our son.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I'm finished.
Thank you.
Storm damage and repair.
All right, I talked to Andrew this afternoon. The access road and Inferno Road, have both been, repaired to the best of their ability. The pavement on Inferno had to be broken off in sections. There was undermining of up to 4 feet in some areas. But the road, they've rebuilt the road underneath and it's now passable. It's a little rough in sections, but it's passable. The airport road, repairs are halfway complete. The stretch from Fleming's Pond to the airport still need attention. But again, the road is passable. All roads are currently open, though some remain a little rough. They're working as quickly as possible. But their progress may depend on tomorrow and Friday's weather.
Right.
We're supposed to get some more rain.
Potentially snow.
Yeah,
Really?
I don't think it's really gonna amount to anything. Andrew doesn't
Come
think
out of
it'll
the
stick to
sky.
the road.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, Andrew's pretty sure that we're gonna need to hire a contractor to saw cut and patch pave the sections on Inferno, where they had to knock the pavement down to fill in the undermining. That will have to happen before winter. Andrew thinks the estimated cost for that is anywhere between $4,000 and $5,000. In terms of materials, Andrews used approximately 882 yards of the 3-inch mix that was supposed to be for the airport road project. He believes that there's enough money in the budget to replace what's been used, but it does leave the gravel pit pretty lean, as we get towards, the end of summer. If we need to fully restock before winter, he's thinking that we potentially might go over budget by 15 to 20,000. Which he said, wants me to remind people that that's basically what was reduced from his highway materials budget this past year.
That's true.
But he said overall, we're in pretty good shape. They're continuing to make solid progress on repairs, at the end of each day, and they're doing the best that they can.
And what about documenting for reimbursement for?
He's documenting, but at this point, both Jeff and I have talked to the state, and because it was isolated to basically Waitsfield, Warren, a little bit of Facein, there's not gonna be any reimbursements. At this point, they're not envisioning any reimbursements. Because it was isolated to us. Mhm.
Interesting.
If it was widespread around Vermont, it would have been different, but it was pretty much isolated to us. So. Yeah.
And he feels like they can handle the repairs without bringing in anyone else?
Yep.
Okay.
He said because of the progress that they've made, he doesn't feel like they need to bring in any other help.
Great.
Yep.
Awesome. And that does not mean that they need to work through Memorial Day.
Right.
Right.
My feeling was if all the roads are passable, emergency vehicles, people can get to their houses. Right?
Yep.
I agree. Absolutely.
Agree with that?
I agree with that as long as we feel like the right signs are up around the roads too, just to give some caution to people who are not familiar.
Have
I-
you seen
I
any
think
of it or
they
not? I know
are-
Airport Road has
Is
on both
not
ends.
as close to through traffic, which is
Yeah.
fine.
Yes.
That's
And
great.
even where there are some that have cones,
Yeah,
I think I noticed that as well on Miller Dump Road,
I haven't
but
been down
somewhere
that road.
else.
yeah,
it
Dump
was-
Road is still road closed, which is good.
Access
right.
Road, does he still have cones out on Access Road?
I haven't been up the access road.
Access road's all
I went-
fixed.
Oh, it's fixed.
Yeah, I went
Yeah.
up it
Yeah.
today when it was one lane and then came back when it was two.
Yeah.
So,
It's all been all fixed.
that's good.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
He and Chris will be out of town this weekend. Andrew's only a couple of hours away. Jeff and I are not going anywhere, so Jeff will be around, I will be around, and Andrew said he can be back if we get more rain than what's expected. But they're not planning to work over the weekend. So,
They deserve the time off. They worked their tails off this
Monday.
weekend.
correct.
With the holiday.
Yeah.
Great.
Mhm. Exactly.
Anything else on storm damage and repair? Moving right along, town administrator update, please.
Ruth, Julie, and I had a demo with Granicus last week. This was a basic introduction to the software, but extremely helpful since none of us has used their platform and really had seen it. It was a very basic demo. They asked us to start playing around in there, getting to know the software a little bit, and then get back to them with any questions that we have, and we'll go from there. It's not a lot we can do until we get sort of our ordinance, and we figure out how we're gonna use the ordinance with the software kind of thing. And I think the planning commission needs to do, I don't know if Jim has more information from the planning commission.
I came in and took a look at the dashboard.
Okay,
Um, It's okay, needs work, it's incomplete.
Yeah.
I mean, they're missing a lot of quote unquote advertised properties identified, correlated back to the grand list. I
Okay.
think we kind of expected that, at least I did, because condos are hard, right?
Right.
For someone that doesn't have access to what we have access to, or kind of tribal knowledge. The dashboard is, state of the art. The kind of what's behind the scenes there needs some work.
They're missing property listings?
They have not, so, correct me if I'm wrong, the contract said that they would identify all the listings to the grand list.
Right.
Yeah.
And we knew that wasn't gonna be perfect. I think we kind of hoped 95, 98%, they're closer to 70.
Yeah.
So now that means someone from the town is gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna have to,
Fill in the blanks.
yeah, Carrie and I had done that before on just a random 100. And it'll be a month's worth of work for someone every day to sit down and kind of figure it out. And then if you're from here, if you're not, it'll be harder. Right, I mean, if you get someone like Julie,
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know where that house is, I'm done, or, oh, I know who owns that condo. So,
That was the additional cost that we were trying to pin down.
Yeah.
I kept saying, I think it's gonna take resources from the town.
Is there any way
fine.
to communicate to Granicus that there is a large blank and can they,
oh, they know
that.
They know that.
are they gonna take a second look at it? And try and fill it
So
out?
I didn't talk to Francis, so I don't know what they will do.
they said that on average, there's usually anywhere from a 25 to 30% gap in listings,
They did say, yeah,
right?
they did say
Here,
to us
I
at
don't
one
remember
point that
But
I don't
I-
know.
the
I
first
would be-
year or so, we
Yeah.
would expect about 70%, right? Or was that
Compliance.
That
That was
Yeah.
compliance,
Compliance.
not just sheer
Not-
identification.
Yeah, I
They
don't
just send
remember
it
them
out.
ever saying that there was gonna be
Yeah,
a lack of.
They told us that in our demo.
I think,
After
ours a
the
little-
fact.
I think we're unique because of the condominiums.
Yeah.
That's the, I think if it were houses, it would be,
But
it
how is
would
that
be kind of
unique?
easy.
I mean, they do,
Yeah.
every ski town has tons of condominiums.
Yeah, but how many ski towns has Granicus done? Like,
I think,
right, Killington doesn't use Granicus. I don't know what Stowe's using.
Oh, it was-
I thought it was a fair
Western,
amount, and one
yeah.
of the reasons they,
Okay,
I
I
would,
didn't
but
know that.
this
Yeah,
has all
that's
dragged
good,
on
I
so
know.
long that it's a bit hazy in
Yeah,
my memory.
Exactly.
so there's work to be,
Yeah.
there's gonna be work to be done there, and
Mhm.
we'll, collectively, we'll have to figure out how do we wanna approach that?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I wonder if it's worth asking them if they could please take a second pass through the condominiums in particular. If that's what you think is missing mostly, and try and, populate that information, because that's like the shady sales tactic of, hey, we're not gonna tell you
Right.
how poorly we're gonna do.
yeah, I don't mean, yeah, I'm not sure why there's that issue in our town, I guess
Yeah.
Right.
Is that something that, I mean, this is just fresh in my mind because I had my intro meeting with the Mad River Planning District, Valley Planning District
Mhm.
yesterday, but is that something that they can help fill in the gaps on too?
They might be able
Sam,
to.
yeah.
Because they
Sam
want,
and Josh, yeah.
Sam wants to, I mean, they want to support on the STR stuff, so.
That's true.
Right,
I mean, you're gonna
Yeah.
ask Sam Robinson to do it
See,
versus someone from the town to do it?
Oh, you mean do the work?
No.
No,
I
not
thought
do
we
the
meant
work. I
put-
think
Put the
just-
pressure
Oh,
on
put
Granicus,
pressure on
because he's the one who
Granicus.
kind of
Okay.
helped steward us to, Granicus, he has a rapport.
Is
I
that what you
think
meant?
That's not a bad
well, I
idea.
mean, I think either, I mean, they do a lot of data analysis,
Yeah.
like that also could be something that could be supportive.
Yeah, I think we kind of briefly touched on that with them when they were here, and they said, they'd have to see what their workload was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and but
Yeah.
maybe they
Yeah.
could,
So maybe it's worth at least a conversation with
yeah,
them.
maybe just let them know the problem
Here's-
we found.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, and I also don't know if it's been made clear what the select board and what the planning commission's intention for the end users, like what are your visions of, how do you want Ruth to use that? How do you want Julie to use that? I'm just sort of, I guess I'm there because I'm the town administrator, but
Use
use
Granicus.
Granicus. I think, to me, that's what's unclear at this point. And I don't know if Julie and Ruth even know the answer to that question. I obviously haven't been at the planning commission meetings when you all started talking about the software platform, but
Right, I mean, I think what I recall was discussions about getting those reports, basically, and
Okay.
reviewing the reports. But again, that's something that that's Ruth's job, I think. And, I don't know if that's asking her to report to the select board on a quarterly basis, what she's finding. I mean, the idea was to collect this information and I feel like we said it was gonna take about a year probably to get any decent information, at least a year, right?
Mhm.
So it's a matter of giving it that time and then probably sitting down and reviewing it and reporting on it and looking at those reports.
yeah, I do know that when I talked to Julie on Monday, she said that Granicus has actually been a huge help to the listers right now, because a lot of the data that they have, they're finding that, oh, this property used to only be a 2-bedroom and now it's a 3-bedroom,
being
or,
listed.
yeah,
Oh.
so,
That's
that's
good.
how Julie's using it right now, is to help with the grand list stuff. But, yeah, so it was a very basic demo, the dashboard is,
Dashboard
great,
is really kind of cool, and
Yeah.
everyone should look at it.
Yeah,
And I don't know how, I guess my question would be, how are you going to do access to it?
Right,
Like,
that's
do you
what I was
need a
just
town
gonna
account?
say.
Do you need a personal account?
yeah.
in
how
the
have you
town?
gotten into it?
I walked over to Ruth's.
Yeah.
So on Ruth's computer,
And
right.
Ruth was locked in.
And
do you
I
have
can,
access
I
to
do have access, so it's just Ruth and Julie and I right now that have access. I don't think Granicus would have a problem if we created a town account, but I think only one, like you two can't be logged into the town
Right.
account at the same time. You know what I mean? Like Ruth and Julie and I can all be logged in at the same time, but you can't use the same username at the same time. So
Right.
Is
Yeah,
there
you know,
a max on it?
I don't think so. It doesn't sound it, but I don't think they want 25 end users either.
I guess, if it's okay with you folks.
I can ask
I
Aaron.
would like an account. And,
So what does one do with an account?
just log into you log into the.
There's different
application,
access
and then
levels.
you can, then you.
And you do what?
What are you analyzing when you access it? What are you accessing it for?
So first things first, you get a number of, okay, how many short-term listings do you have? And then you can click on it and you can say, how many 3 bedrooms, how many 2 bedrooms? And then behind the scenes, there's some analytics around, it was rented twice in the last month.
Right.
So there's some ability to drill down into kind of the statistics around what the rental does. There's no historic data other than, kind of the timestamp of when they added it to the database.
So it's information gathering, you're not editing or modifying things.
You're
No,
just
I
looking-
wouldn't-
you're just
right,
setting
you
it,
wouldn't-
right.
Yeah,
No.
that should be Julie and
That's an
Ruth should
admin.
have editor
Yeah.
capabilities.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to make sure
Everyone
we
else should
didn't.
be browse only.
Understood. So it would probably behoove us to have a town account that someone can log in and browse.
I can ask
Um,
Aaron.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like maybe even one for the planning commission and one for the select board. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, again, I mean, it really goes back to that question. What are we doing with it and when and who? I mean, it's not like the planning commission is probably all gonna sit around at the same time and.
No, but I imagine you can print reports and collate information in
so is
that
that-
manner. So someone wants to do
Can I
that.
say something?
Mm,
It's the same way with NEMRIC. How often have you guys gone on NEMRIC?
right,
Come on.
right.
I
We're
think
gonna
one
ask for the
town account-
reports.
You have never, I'm not gonna say it. You guys are read-only.
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity to go onto NEMRIC, you can look at the reports and you can look at all that information. I think Jim's got a good point. If it's only read-only and there's one town account, there's not gonna be 40 people on it. I
We're
mean,
gonna
there's
ask for that information
Yeah,
from.
definitely,
Exactly. Who's gonna access
definitely.
it probably, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
I'm hoping I'm not overstepping, but I can probably see how often everyone's gone on NEMRIC.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm on it all the time, Rebecca is not on it only except when we're going over budget.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think if we had one, read-only town account, I think we would be fine with just that. If we find that once, we start, using it more often, maybe, but I don't see having more than one account for now.
Well, what's interesting is, again, just going back to why are we doing any of this? And it was a community-wide question. Are short-term rentals causing the housing problem? That was sort of that was the beginning question. So there are lots of people who would like to, I think, analyze this data. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think we created it. I mean, I could see somebody saying, well, why can't I get it? It's the town of Warren. Why can't I get on and check it out? I think it's up to us to come up with a process for analyzing and reporting and, stating our conclusions from this data. So I don't think we have the answer. I think we need to work on what we're gonna do with it now. Like really put that in motion, because we spent so much time debating whether to get it and then what the details of the ordinance are, that we haven't really talked a lot about how we're gonna use it.
And we also just need to pass the ordinance.
And what? We haven't passed the ordinance
Right.
yet.
We need to pass the ordinance and we need to complete the onboarding process before we can really even address how we're gonna analyze data that is currently, far
Not
from
even-
complete.
Right. complete.
So I hear you. It sounds like Jim saying he'd like to help navigate the onboarding and figure out how we want to report on this. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right, I'm even willing to help with the identification of the 30%, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that would save us some money. Could spend a couple hours on that every once in a while and knock that off pretty, in a reasonable amount of time versus
Right,
hiring someone to go dig through it for a month.
Right.
right.
I think their thought is when people start to register their short-term rentals, that's when we'll dwindle that number down. And we'll find that, oh, we don't have that address on our list.
Yeah.
That is possible,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
I don't know, are you gonna send a letter to every person in the valley, in Warren?
Every STR.
Every person on the grand list?
Every known.
That is the
SDR.
plan.
No, just every person
Oh,
on the
every
grand
person on the
list.
grand list.
That's
No,
the
that's
only
not
way
the
you're gonna
plan, is
get the
it?
people
I think that is the
to,
plan.
Is that going out in tax bills or something?
I
It
don't,
could,
I don't know.
That would be the way to do
Yeah.
that, I would think.
yeah, definitely.
And that might do it. I mean,
right,
that would,
and then
that
you
would be
you would probably
comprehensive,
get
and then
from
you
30
whittle
to
it
90
down,
in a
right?
hurry.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
probably a good idea.
So-
I'll help stuff on.
It's okay.
But that's, I think that's a planning
Yeah.
commission, Ruth question.
I'm
Because,
gonna point it at the select board for that, to say.
Why do you
how does
say
the
it's a-
letter get sent?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't know.
I don't
because
think the planning
she's
commission
technically administering the
Yeah,
She's
platform.
the
does.
enforcer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
you're right, she's.
I think we have
she's gonna
the,
look for guidance on that.
yeah, I think we
Yeah.
have the ability and the
To
right
ask
to
it to-
direct it in that regard, and I think that's an excellent place to put the registration letter.
Right.
And I think Granicus has a system for it anyway. And then we'll also follow up with identified landowners that don't register, right? So that's where if people don't voluntarily register, we'll have a gap of people that will need to be followed up with and found through this sort of process that Jim's identifying, I think. Well, that's great. Will you chat with Granicus? It sounds like we're asking, are they anticipating that that list is filled out through the registration process? Are they able and willing to take another look at, in particular, condominiums? Or are they expecting us to populate that? And there was something else, account access. Or may we have one read-only account access? That sum it up.
And there, just a question on like their list of STRs, are they using the definition by which we,
In our ordinance.
in our ordinance that we said what an STR is? Cause we had like, if it's not rented out more than this many times, or like,
2 weeks.
yeah, there's like a,
Yes, I think that's actually a universally identifying factor of STRs.
Okay.
It's anything
It's-
under 30 days or more, and in some number of times.
this, yeah, I think it's the number of times I think
Yeah.
we played with a little bit, which I could be wrong, but I remember us dwelling on that particular definition for a little bit.
They are supposed to be building the entire platform off of our ordinance,
But,
which
but
they have a draft of.
they've got our draft. We just have to ratify it essentially with them, right?
Right.
From the
Yeah.
final, okay.
I think we're still on your update.
Oh, we are. That was the first thing I'm like, town hall doors, are being removed and taking off-site for restoration this coming Friday, the 23rd, and a temporary plywood wall will be put in place, until the doors and the rest of the project are complete. We will keep you updated as we get updates from the contractor.
So how does that work? Both doors are being removed?
Yep, both doors are being removed. We feel like, I talked to Marie about it, I talked to Jeff about it. For security purposes, instead of trying to have like a plywood door that we have to try and secure and lock at the end of the day, he's gonna put up a temporary plywood wall and they'll use the entrance that's on the side
Side
of the building. Talked to Carl.
Okay, great.
He granted easement to the town of Warren many, many, many years ago, because technically those steps are on his property. So we're all set with that. And so Marie has sandwich boards all prepared to put out front, directing people. People can go, they can use the side door to the elevator, they can
Right.
use the back entrance, to go down to the basement. So there's many ways for them to get into the building.
Can they use the back door to the basement? Is that open regularly?
It's
or-
not usually, but we can prop it open if we know that there's gonna be an event or something downstairs.
Okay.
So, yep.
Just makes me a little nervous having it open all the time, because no one's down there. It's just,
right. I think if there's an event, we'll keep
Yeah.
it open, but otherwise they'll have to use the
Yeah.
side entrance or the elevator.
yeah.
So.
Cool.
The line of credit paperwork is in the folder to be signed tonight. Dana probably has more information on that than I do, but I don't, it's basically needs to be
Sign
signed and
line
then she
with
gets
your
it back to the bank.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
mine
where
is
your name is, sign that line.
good information.
The updated language for the amended purchasing policy has been approved by the state and Warren is now in compliance to receive federal funding. We just need a vote on that tonight at tonight's meeting, which I've put the proposed language. It's not proposed, it is the language that the state has approved, for us to update our purchasing policy. And then, the interpretive panel for the Timber Crib Dam is in the final stages of production at Wood and Wood and will be installed by June 1st. Wood and Wood has installed the new brackets. We had a little bit of an issue. They first installed white. They needed to be green. They're now green.
This is for the brackets for the interpreter.
Yes, yep,
Can I interrupt here?
yep.
Because this is what I wanted to talk about with you, and I really want to thank you again, Rebecca. I know your days were off at that time. I have two questions, and maybe I should call you in the office or whatever. But one is, since the runoff on, what day was that? Friday, Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah, the bottom of those columns were under about 2 inches of water. So it's running right off of Fuller Hill right into that.
Okay,
And when it was being installed, the guy that was doing it, he actually put it in originally when it was originally way back white. And I asked him who decided to put the second panel that's going to be up there so close to the power line. And he said, I don't know, I don't have nothing to do with it. All I can say is that panel, and he said, mention it to the board, would be and I doubt you're going to want to move it, but it should be on the other side for two reasons. Everyone walks right out to that edge. We don't know what's under that edge. We keep getting erosion continuously. And there's no gate there. We've talked about that. I know I've been at meetings about what to do if someone were to fall off there, or to prevent it. So that's the other thing. And then my last thing is, Rebecca, you told me this was a FEMA grant, correct?
yeah.
Can someone define to me why FEMA would be putting up signs, historic signs? I don't get this.
So basically what happened, Alice, was there was a grant before I started, for the Timber Crib, dam. I couldn't find proof, that pictures were taken before and after. I couldn't find proof that there was, a historian on site. I couldn't find proof that there was an archaeologist on site. So instead of the town of Warren having to give all of that money back, we had to install this interpretive panel giving the history of the Timber Crib Dam.
Well, again, I'm just gonna ask it
Yeah.
one more time, why FEMA should be an emergent, I'm seeing a real conflict here of how these funds are used, and that's my point. I don't know if you
So
agree with me.
the
That should be going to someone
the
who
orig-
needs help.
the original grant was a hazard mitigation grant.
Mhm.
So hazard mitigation, obviously that explains itself.
It was
Um,
for the stone
It
wall.
was for the
work,
stone
yeah.
wall work to be done.
Yeah,
And that was before my time, before,
Before all of
all of our
us.
times. So we couldn't find any files proving that work had been done.
In
In
compliance.
compliance with the hazard mitigation grant that we received, that the town of Warren received.
Which required that the timbers be left in place.
Exactly.
And buried
Buried.
behind the work that was done.
Exactly.
And they were meant to document that work, and we couldn't find any proof of it.
Yep.
So in lieu of that, they decided there was a workaround for us to be allowed to keep the money they had given us for the work that was done. And that workaround was an interpretive panel that educated the public about the timber crib dam and its importance.
Yeah, that was,
None of us really understand why
Right,
FEMA cares.
I don't think we
Yeah.
can answer you, Alice.
I think we're probably all pretty much
Yeah.
with you.
it sounds, but you all can't get what FEMA stepped in and gave, what'd they do? Give you more funds?
Well,
No.
the original grant was through FEMA.
Oh,
So that's why FEMA's a
Just
part
go
of
back
this.
to the 98 flood, because they failed on everything that they said they were gonna do then.
I don't think, was it flood related? I
It was,
really don't
it was
know.
hazard mitigation.
Yeah.
So
So
it
because
was-
of the original floods.
Yeah,
It's a
Then that's when the
preparedness
hazard
grant.
mitigation all
Right.
came
Correct.
in and started the conversation, so.
Okay,
And I
but-
believe it was a balance left in the grant
Yes,
that
yeah.
paid for the signage.
Yeah.
But Alice, we hear you. It
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
better if that money had gone to repairing someone's washed out road than
Yeah,
a sign.
We
Yeah,
all agree.
I mean, I don't know if I'm out of place saying it right now. I should have done it with other minutes, but that was the question I really had to find out why FEMA is in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, okay,
Wasting everybody's time.
Yep.
thank you again. And
Thanks, Alice.
you. Oh, yeah. Let's see if I can find mute again. Oops.
So I think, just if we want to do it right here, I don't know if you guys, have had a chance to read it. Or if we want to.
Conflict of interest?
Conflict of interest is the first one.
Yep.
And
I've read it.
it basically had to state, that no employee, officer, agent, or elected official may participate in the selection, award, or administration of a contract supported by a federal award. It basically just updating the language that we had in place, make it a little bit more strict, I guess, if you will. And then we didn't have allowability of costs. And so that's all brand new to our purchasing
I
policy.
didn't get to read that one, but can you just give me a?
So basically what it means is like typically, let's say that Andrew gets a grant for paving and he meets with the pavers to go over the project and they have a beer. The beer is not an allowable cost.
Mm.
That's that's basically
Very
how
typical
Matthew.
in all
Yeah.
federal contracts.
Exactly. That's how Matthew explained it to Dana and I. So that
Reasonable
basically,
to me.
yeah, that was all of.
We felt it wasn't allowed.
Always
Yeah, we
has been,
disagree.
but whatever.
We
So,
had to change it.
We'll just add this stuff. We'll basically update the conflict of interest section, and then add the allowability of costs to our current purchasing policy.
Do I hear a motion to approve this language?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Why don't we just sign a
One.
copy? Next, are you finished with
Yeah,
your
I'm done. So
update?
now,
Thank
Todd Warnock
you.
is on for the Grand Fondo
Yeah.
permit.
Hi Todd, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome, let's talk permit.
Okay.
You have a copy of it in your,
And this one?
yeah. I emailed it to you guys, but. Yeah. thank you. That's it right there, I think on the top. Down the left.
Brent. Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you. All right, Todd, can you tell us what you're doing?
I am, we have a cycling event on June 28th. And we come in from Facein up through German Flats Road and I'm blanking on the name of the road.
Sugar Bush, right onto Sugar Bush Access Road.
And then we make our
Inferno.
way down to Lincoln Gap Road. Sorry, I'll just open the map here. I can't believe I remember the route there. Go on the same roads every year. Sorry about that. let's get the course here. Inferno Road, down to Lincoln Gap Road, and then we have two different groups that will come that way, and one group will turn left once it hits Lincoln Gap Road and make its way through the center of Warren, up Roxbury Gap, and on to Braintree and Randolph.
I see. And the others will go over Lincoln Gap.
The others will go over Lincoln Gap. The largest group we have will make that turn up Lincoln Gap. The smallest group we have is the group that will turn left. So large, I mean by like it's in the 150 rider range. And the left-hand turn will be around the 50 rider range at maximum.
And it's it's a staged race, right? So you release people one
No,
after the other?
this is not a race.
Oh, sorry.
This is not the Green Mountain Stage Race,
Right.
which we are commonly mistaken as.
Sorry.
This is a recreational ride. Our first group departs out of Bristol at 5 a.m., which is the small group because they're doing 150 miles. And then our second group, which will be a second group departs at 7 a.m., which will be the one that'll come through and go up Lincoln Gap and won't come through the center of town. But by the time everyone reaches the summit of Appalachian Gap, they're pretty well strung out. So we're in groups of 5 at the most generally, and a lot of singles, or doubles or 3 people, but not really much larger than a 5-person group. We have competitive elements, but that's the climbs up the gaps. So Appalachian Gap, the climb is the challenge. Up Lincoln Gap is the challenge. Middlebury and Brandon, and so on and so forth. The small group, which leaves at 5 a.m., they'll be pretty strung out as well, even though it's a small group, because it's a 150-mile route and a lot of variation in strength and training. They will swing back. That small group will swing back through town in the afternoon. They'll come up through 100 from Granville, but they take one of the higher detours on the east side of 100 to skip the Gulf. Don't like sending riders through the Gulf. And then they'll come back in and then come through. Let me get the name of the road here so I get it right.
Plunkton.
So yeah, they go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Plunkton.
they're gonna go.
Come down Plunkton and then back down into town. And we have a rest stop. We've had a rest stop at the ski center there, the cross country.
Blueberry. Yeah.
We did that last year and that was pretty good. And then they'll come through town and up Lincoln Gap, and they're gone.
And you've said that you have local sheriff's department and state police to help manage significant intersections.
That really varies year to year. We have the Bristol police lead out our riders out of Bristol. So the first couple of miles there, we have control of the front of the group. And that's just until they get off of 116 and head up into Lincoln. So that is that's really the only controlled intersection, except for one other intersection we control, which is in Middlebury. So all other intersections are designed to be like the whole course is designed so that riders don't really cross traffic. The only place they actually cross traffic is coming in and out of Warren on 100. But I do it in a way that the riders have to, they stop and they are crossing, they are crossing into the traffic they're going to be moving into. So the point of that is so that they don't stop in the middle of Route 100 to make a turn.
Right.
So that they turn across the road and then make a left when they're coming off of Lincoln Gap, and they don't have to cross traffic to make the turn into Warren. And that's the reverse the other way. So, and that's been approved by state police, the whole route. So and we do the big diamond, cycling event signs, 500 feet on either side. So we have all the UTO signs and then numerous directional signs and cyclists ahead, especially some key places. I put more cyclists ahead signs, like coming into Warren down the hill for cars who tend to, on that northern side of town, they tend to roll onto Main Street,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not pay attention as much. So we put some extra signs in places like that.
Anybody have any questions?
The only thing that popped into my mind when you said Inferno Road is to be aware of the damage that we've had on some of our roads from the recent storms, and Inferno Road is one of them. So just want to make sure that, and I don't know by June 28th that we'll have
It probably won't be
repair.
patched, yeah.
So
Yeah.
just be
So
aware.
what extent is the damage?
There was some undermining on which side of it
the
is.
pavement on the, was it, I
Is it the
guess I'm
north
not
side?
sure.
I'm not 100% sure. I can go.
But it's worth
take a
taking a
drive.
look at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Todd.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just,
well, I can drive that in the next
Yeah.
week or so.
just so that you're aware of it.
It's rough. It's basically, dirt at this point. There's sections that are still pavement, but they had to cut the pavement out so that they could rebuild underneath the road. So it's dirt at this point. We probably won't have it repatched and paved.
Right.
I
By
guess it's
the
probably
race.
on the high side of that road.
It probably is.
Yeah, it's probably on the side you're traveling, because you're coming down Inferno, right?
No, they're going up Inferno.
Well, we'll come down we'll go up and down, because we come down in towards the golf, toward the golf course to West Hill Road.
Oh,
Right.
I guess I don't know where it is.
Yeah, so on the first leg, when you turn left onto Inferno Road, that's probably the side of the road that has the damage, traveling downhill.
Okay.
But
And is
take a look at it and
Okay.
just make sure you let people know. We have had some damage also on Lincoln Gap Road, a little bit on Sugar Bush Access Road. So you're just gonna have to keep your eyes open, and that speaks to Kaylee's point about making sure there's good signage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll make sure to tell the road crew that.
Yeah.
If there are large divots or anything, that there are
They're well marked.
cones and
Yeah.
well marked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the only other thing, Todd, is please do send a copy of your certificate of insurance
Yep.
to
Not a
Rebecca. And I don't have any further
Can
questions.
we let the Washington sheriffs know
I
too?
I think
Or
they already, are the sheriff's departments aware? Is Washington County Sheriff's Department aware?
They, those letters are going out this week.
Great.
So usually I once I have everyone's all the town select boards, I would like to make a request for, and I can note this for next year, about getting through this process earlier. Just because
This was sent in January.
yeah.
Was?
So
January
is there a
25th.
process for me to make a request when,
Yeah, I think that the issue here may be that the request went through the town clerk, and it should be coming through the town administrator, Rebecca.
is that a different address?
It is.
I think you have my
Oh.
address, you may, my
Okay.
email address, Todd.
But yeah, next year definitely go
Yeah.
straight to Rebecca and it'll
Yeah.
come faster to the select board.
Okay.
Most certainly. Sorry about that, Todd.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's, I
That's
think
not a moderate delay.
knowing that that there's a different path is good because it kind of it's been happening every year.
Well, thank you for
Wow,
bringing it to
yeah,
our
you-
attention
definitely.
and
we can do better.
yes,
We can definitely do better.
absolutely.
And there's also just a chance too that like we saw that it was this, and in the past years we had it on the timeline to review this month. And like maybe there's a reason why we just keep doing it every year at that time. Like
Yeah,
we're just like,
I
oh,
wouldn't
every
know
year we
because
just-
I wasn't ever part of that decision-making process, but I can guarantee you, Todd, that if you get this to Rebecca in January, we will turn it around much sooner.
That would be great.
And in your communications, please don't hesitate to say, I'd really love to hear back from you by. If you have a deadline for your own purposes, it's always good for us to have that in mind and we'll do our best to meet it.
Okay. I can state a deadline. Okay.
And sorry about that.
I did. I've kind of skated the line between being pushy and patient.
Well, we appreciate it, but clear is kind.
Yeah.
So thank you
Okay.
for letting us know.
Okay, thanks.
Do I hear a motion to approve the permit for the Grand Fondo scheduled for Saturday, June 28th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Todd, I'll scan this and send this to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
All right.
luck.
Have a good evening.
Thanks.
All right, Community Day discussion.
So, I put a little flyer in it's just something that Dana and I kind of drafted. Don't look at the date, so it's obviously
So I was gonna
this
say,
weekend.
It
really?
really freaked me out.
Yeah, me too.
I thought
Well,
this was
we
the
sort of
best
kind of thought
parade
that,
on
you
the
know,
planet.
yeah. But, it was actually Dana's concept. And we just thought that it would be really great to sort of have, an opportunity for all of the different committees, all of the personnel that work for the town of Warren, anybody and anyone that represents the town of Warren come for a community day and have people come and meet, you know, their local officials and the fire department and the conservation committee, the planning commission, you know, everybody.
We do a touch-up truck.
No, we aren't gonna do that, but we were thinking of
Why
hot
not?
dogs and things like that, but we also thought that, there's people there's organizations that we give money to that people don't know about.
Yeah.
Like PTO should show up,
Yeah.
the dog park should show up.
Mhm.
There's other people that don't know who to contact, and I think that we, even as town officials, don't know all the people.
Yeah.
out there. So I think it's important to. get
What
to
does
know
it look
people.
like? Is it like, does the
Table.
dog park have a table?
Yeah.
No, we were thinking of throwing the tables around.
Yeah, okay.
And each,
Yeah, and
you know, one group has a half a
Conservation
table.
Commission or whatever.
And as
yeah.
many people of that, you know, planning commission can show up,
Mhm.
should show up in shifts.
Mhm.
We'll contact the people who are the chairman or who's their, you know, contact
Right,
person.
Right.
And ask how many people they can bring, or at least, and there's 12 people that show up. People have questions, guys.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
get them all day long.
Mhm.
No, I love the idea. I'm
Yeah.
trying to visualize it. So did you say food or something? Is there
Well-
something else attracting them besides
Well, we
us
thought that-
wonderful, amazing people?
We're hoping that the fire department can pull out that old time
Oh,
grill.
the grill, yeah.
And
Why don't
Kaylee,
we,
yeah, they could do touch a truck, but then that's a different kind of
Yeah.
event. Do you know what I mean? I think it might.
I mean, they could pull a
They
truck
might just
out
have a truck
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
exactly.
and
Yeah.
the kids, you know,
climb around?
climb around in it.
Right.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a local food truck vendor that might be interested in showing up.
Well, we're not
Instead of
going to- we'd rather
town
just do the hot
officials.
dogs. We're gonna
Just do it,
I mean,
yeah.
they shouldn't, no one's gonna come and do lunch.
Well,
We'd rather-
let's see,
Yeah.
let's see if the fire department is willing to cook hot dogs.
Exactly,
If they're not,
exactly. Yeah.
then, you know, we could have something like that. we haven't really, Dana and I have sort of talked about this,
Hmm.
and that's about as far as it's gone.
So you're thinking for sometime this summer in the next,
June,
in June?
yeah,
What we'd like to do before then get it, because then it starts piling up with other stuff that piles.
right.
I think I don't understand. I think I don't know what the objective is.
To connect, yeah, to connect town
Making-
officials with the community.
Officials and organizations and
Yes.
committees
Mhm.
accessible.
Yeah. You
And
know,
identifiable.
the
You know,
pavilion will be done.
we
you know,
don't, we
those
don't
kinds
do
of
that at
things.
town meeting, and I
Right.
know, look, it's one of those things in the back of my mind that I thought, well, you know, they should have tables, the different groups should have representation, so
I
people
agree.
know what all the things are they could
Yeah.
join if they wanna do the historical society, you know?
Right. They had the volunteer thing at the Waterbury, this last weekend, and it was really successful. There's a lot of
Was
people that, showed up. It's revitalizing Waterbury, so they wanted people to volunteer, or at least meet the people who, what groups they could volunteer if
Uh-huh.
you're a new person that
Right.
lives in town. We have so many second homeowners that wanna be involved, but they really don't know how to
Yeah.
be involved.
Yeah,
So we, Rebecca and I are like, well, how about, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And if we know, once we meet a lot of the people that live here, we know their interests. And if we can say, hey, you might be interested
Right.
in working at the library or, helping out, like, following Jim Crafts around or something like that. Something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it makes an easy entrance when you get to meet that.
And maybe
person.
it's another way to get more people to volunteer
Yeah.
their time
Yeah.
for the town.
Yeah.
You know, I think we see a lot of the same names, in the same, on the same lists, and it would be nice to get some other people involved, and maybe they'd like to get involved, they don't know how, or they don't know who to reach out to, something like that. So,
I think that's great. I think that one of the best ways to get the public here is to have food
Mhm.
and games available.
Mhm.
And so if there's a food truck or a vendor that wants to provide food that doesn't place another burden on volunteers of the town already, that's a great opportunity. And what does the library have to say about it? Do they want to host games or?
I was thinking that, I know I have a connection with a guy who does dinosaur shows.
Hmm.
So we could inflate some of the dinosaurs if they want to, you
Mhm.
know what I mean, and people.
That would be great, yeah.
And that would be it.
Yeah,
But I think if we
You don't want it to be a
away from
fair.
other groups.
Right.
Exactly.
right.
Yeah, we're
We don't
not
wanna
looking
put
for a
performance
carnival.
I think if
Well,
there's
it's
things
just
for the kids to do and the parents to
I
do,
agree.
I think it's important that there are things for
Mhm.
the kids to do, or else you just won't get anyone.
right,
And so maybe to that end, it's like pulling the giant 4 in a row thing out on the lawn, and like
Yeah.
a set of cornhole,
mhm.
Or
simple.
is this where we do the dunk tank and we get Andy and Luke to sit in the dunk tank and dunk the ex-selected? How about that?
I
For it?
love the
Yeah,
dunk tank.
yeah.
I
was just gonna
I
say.
will always
A lot
support
of
the dunk
people.
tank.
We really liked the dunk tank at the
Randy.
PTO fundraiser last year.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
It used to be at the Warren Fourth of July every year.
Not to say.
Okay, so what do you need from us, and
I think we
what's the
kind of,
next step?
I think we're
Date?
looking for a date at this point.
Not to say.
Dana and I might, project this to, people, and they might be like, yeah, we're not coming.
Yeah, that's-
Well, that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Is if you're looking at June and it's May, I'm thinking of my own June, a weekend, I assume.
Yeah, we would like to do it on like Saturday morning.
You know what, you guys, let's just try.
Yeah,
Let's just
right,
see what
yeah, throw it
happens,
out
and
there
if
and
we
see.
have 15 people.
And it's in, yeah,
Exactly.
it's in there for
I-
next year if it doesn't,
And
yeah.
and just like you're saying, Camilla, to have a casual conversation with the select board member is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah,
They
So
don't know.
To
how
that end, it needs to be publicly warned,
yeah.
Yes.
which of course it'll be advertised, so
So all of the committees.
all of the committees will need
Send
to
out their
warn.
warnings. We Get Charlie out there for the cemetery commission, that'll
Oh,
be.
Lord.
I wonder if there's value in having conversations with committees before committing a date? Or would,
Yeah, if you
or
wanna
would you
do a
like to
little
commit a date?
Informal,
I don't.
you don't wanna do like
I
an
think if
informal
we
poll?
say, this is the choice we're looking at, are you guys available?
I think two choices.
Yeah, I mean, once
Well-
you open that door a little wide, it doesn't work.
So are
So
you,
there's enough people on a committee that maybe one or two people could possibly show up, and if they can't, then I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
so
know.
you wanna base it on us, you want us to say, well, this is the
No, I
date we
think
can
it-
do, no?
No, I don't, I think we want your approval to, you think this is a good idea,
Oh,
and then we'll
you
get
guys
back to you
will, oh, okay.
on a date. And then I don't, would we have to warn every single commission, because it wouldn't be a meeting, it would just be a community day.
Well, in the event that a quorum of any of those boards arrive,
But you're not talking about
Yeah, we're
an
not
event
making any-
that's coming on here. You're
that,
not talking
I
about
know,
a
it's
subject
a fine,
that's
it's a,
making a decision.
yes, technically, that's
Right.
true. Is it perceived that way? And in conversation about open meeting law, sometimes it's just better to warn
here's what
it,
I would do, I would leave it to each of the committees and commissions.
to decide who
decide.
can come and whether or not they wanna warn it.
I mean, we will warn it, I think the
Yeah,
select board has the
Full
most,
orders.
you know,
But if we're not really conducting any business.
we're not
I
conducting any business.
completely agree,
yeah.
I'm just saying, people get,
I can reach out to see how it was handled in Water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see what they do.
That's great, I'd say, see
Is
what you can
there,
do.
are there some dates in,
I cannot do the 28th and 29th.
okay,
yeah, so there's the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. I can't do the 21st. The 14th, I have been told, is potentially a very large protest day.
Hmm,
Um,
that would cut down people who might come to,
that sort of I mean,
those are Saturdays, did you mention Sunday?
I have.
Sunday might-
the 15th is Father's Day.
The church, though, maybe.
It yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't know, I mean,
Well,
you,
maybe we
you
should
figure
just
it out. And then,
Pull around. We'll
yeah,
just
we'll ask
figure it
around.
out. Right.
And maybe it's September, if June doesn't work. I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
I appreciate the initiative.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Do you need anything else from us?
No.
Candidates forum. I think we have Joel here. Maybe Jim. I say it every time though.
Okay.
I think, Joel, since you're the only member here, we don't have anyone online, we'll just open it up for a conversation.
Sure, go
I think we had a number of questions. I'm sure we'd love to ask you some of those, but let's start with, just sort of you introducing yourself to us and your interest.
Yeah, my name's Joel Taplin. I've been living in Warren since, 1977 to 94, and then 2014 to now. So, born here, went away to school for 20 years and lived in a different place in Rhode Island, and now I'm back here.
Cool.
Thank you for coming back.
I'm
You
looking
know
for
my
my
dad,
husband.
Andy.
We do know your dad.
Yeah, your dad and who your mom, yeah,
No, it's
exactly, and your sister, yeah.
My sister as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you
Um,
live?
I was on, right on my parents'
So you're-
property,
okay,
on
so
the
yeah.
end of Metro.
Oh, that's right, I saw your letter, yeah. Nice, good.
And you are a woodworker
I'm a woodworker, I
and an
make
artist.
furniture, make sculpture, I teach ES tomorrow.
You make benches. Well, yes, actually he does, but is too busy.
Very busy right now.
You have kids in the school
I have
system?
2 kids, they are not at Harwood, they're, up in Montpelier,
Okay, gotcha, cool.
they're homeschooled, and they have like, supplemental.
You've been back since, when did you say?
2014,
Okay, so they probably went through some of the school system here, or-
they were homeschooled,
oh, they were homeschooled, oh, sorry, yep.
went to Spring Hill.
Yeah, yep, yeah. Cool. My question for you is, this is a new one from my last time. What do you think are valuable qualities for a select person in the town of Warren?
Well, I think for any organization to work, you have to have empathy between the people, right? So you have to be able to stand judgment free in another person's situation and listen with an open heart, right? So that you can get to the heart of the matter without your conditioning getting in the way. As like a baseline for just being able to connect to another person. And then, so on top of that, you may have a situation where somebody is not, where there are two people that are not getting along. So how do you find it? How do you find a decent working, how do you hold the space for somebody to be able to have a conversation in a constructive way? Like how do you mediate something? How do you allow someone to express themselves wholly and completely so that they feel like they're heard?
And that's something you feel you could bring to this
It's
table?
something that I've thought about.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'm perfect at. I don't think we're all very good at it. We're actually pretty bad at listening, honestly. I think most people are thinking about what they're going to say next.
Right,
As
right.
opposed to actually listening to what the person's saying currently.
Very
So,
true.
You know, it's a practice.
I agree.
I took a class last year on being a death doula.
Yeah, I saw that.
And one of the coolest one of the parts that is part of that is listening as an active listener. And there's a cool acronym that the woman taught us, which was WAIT. Why am I talking?
Ah, that's excellent. That's excellent.
You know, like, so how do you step back, let the other person go through their thing without you getting involved?
Thanks.
The power of silence.
Right. A lot of people that don't like that. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Kaylee, do you have any of your questions
Sure.
ready?
Sure, you wanna put me on the spot? Okay, so I have two questions. One is the softball question of what do you love about Warren? And then the second one is knowing some of the select board priorities for this year, what do you think is important or what would you like to contribute to?
So your first question, what I like about Warren, I grew up here. I have like a sort of just a connection to the lands that is very personal. Parents are here. My dad is here. My mom is passed away, but I have a connection to our land, our neighbor's land, the community that I live in, and it's pretty important to me. Those people there, it keeps me here and brought me back. I don't have an agenda, honestly. But for your second question, is like there's nothing that I want to like railroad through or do anything in particular. I'm just here as a person who likes to set it to help. But yeah, I don't have an actual agenda. I just really know.
Can I tag on to that and say, do you feel like you know what our agenda is? I don't know how much you.
I don't. I think this is like an interview process for me to do as well. I have an understanding that I've watched this board for a couple of years now. Is that like, and growing up with my father being a select board member, is that things move at a glacial pace. And so
When did we get that letter from Todd?
so there's just obviously this time where people are, it's a volunteer position and people are trying to figure out how to make it happen. And sorry, can you go?
Well, I guess I was really what I was curious about is because I know before I was ended up on the select board, I hadn't really even paid that much attention, honestly. So I didn't know what the conversations were at the table. And I guess that's really the question I'm asking is,
So,
do you feel like you've,
I mean, so from what I have gathered is that like the town garage has been a
Mhm.
thing that has been a thorn in everybody's side for 30 years.
Right.
And has now found a way through to an idea to the daylight. I don't know the inner workings of the select board of like what you're going through every day.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how much time you dedicate to it, if it's just the 2 meetings a week, or is there, or a month, or is it a daily occurrence? Are you constantly fielding emails?
can we refuse to answer that question?
I mean, I remember my dad even saying that like people would always come up to him in the hearings and start like berating him.
I don't
it's
get-
like
I don't get
that.
berated.
No.
No.
he's a volatile person.
Or there were just everybody at Huron's knew you back then. Now it's a
Right.
little bit.
So-
I mean, who can go through the
Dissolve.
Hurons
Well,
in a
alright,
timely
but-
fashion unless you're wearing your hood and your sunglasses, right?
So I mean, there's that. You're a public person.
That's why you're not running for the select board, Jim. Sorry. Is that a question?
It is.
Yeah.
Like, what is your relationship to the amount of work that you all have full-time jobs?
Yeah.
What does your time sink into it?
I think I have the least amount of time sink of the select board members. And I would say that I spend maybe 4 to 5 hours a week, but that's only in non-budget seasons,
Right.
which I think was maybe the piece that I didn't really comprehend at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where we meet every week during budget season, which is in the fall to the winter.
It's just half year.
It's just
It's
half
like,
year.
it's December, January, for sure.
Late November.
Late November.
Yeah, till town meeting, more or less.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully we've finished it up before the second week of February.
But I
Are
would
you all in person that time, or do you guys meet? If you have to go away, are you on Zoom? Do you?
We are in person, but
We
there's
can-
always a Zoom
Zoom is
option.
always.
Yeah, and plenty of us will Zoom into one or another, as long as someone is here. Technically, Rebecca.
Yeah.
But we're usually in person.
And I would say, at least for me, the answer to that question for me has a lot to do with what's been going on in the years since I have joined. We seem to have had a lot of, we had some personnel stuff right away when I started that required additional attention. Then we had COVID, and then, so it's sort of, for me, been this constant stream of extra projects that can use my attention. And I think you have the option usually to decide how deeply you're going to get involved outside of the meetings. So it will take as much as you can give it, as any volunteer position does. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is probably a minimum of 4 to 5
Yeah.
hours a week.
Emails, a
And
lot of emails,
yeah,
reading.
bunch of emails. The workload for Camilla and I is a little bit higher as we fill the chair and vice chair position, and also because we are on the town garage
Right.
committee.
Right.
And that's taking quite a lot of time. So I would second Camilla's thought process there that, if you choose to participate in a project that we're working on, it will take more time. So like Kaylee was working on the hazard mitigation plan.
Right.
So that was time she spent that we didn't spend. And so we do that often, one of us will take on a project and sort of be the point person and report back. And so some of that is, what is your appetite for time and interest? And so, the other workings of the select board are mostly roads and equipment and traffic calming.
Mhm. Yep.
And then random issues that come up. Sometimes there's something to do with the dog.
So this is appointed until this position is appointed until next town meeting.
Yep.
Correct.
So at that point, anybody would run again, so you're trying to fill a
Right.
position.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe, so you would be appointed until next town meeting, and then you would finish the term of one of the two seats,
Mhm.
so I don't know how many, I don't know what the years, what the seats are.
3 and 2.
3
Three
and 2.
So you
Three
could,
and two.
you could be appointed to one or the other, and then
Yeah.
only have 1 year to finish out if you want.
Or 2.
Or two.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have any other questions for us?
Not directly.
Do you feel like, I mean, I assume you wouldn't be here if you didn't, but do you feel like the time that we've outlined is something that fits into your life? Okay, a lot of people have been like, okay, nope.
I think I'd be willing to try.
Yeah.
You know,
That's all we can do, all any of us can do, we're just volunteers.
I think this is probably a good point. Where I could probably do that.
Actually, that's not true, you get $1,500 a year.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
we do get a stipend,
Yeah. So.
which I'm continually trying to put to Thai food, but
Yeah.
I haven't succeeded yet.
Questions?
Do we have any other questions?
I mean, you said you have no agenda, which I appreciate, but I also am curious what you're passionate about. Like in the town, like if you could make a difference, even if it's just a short year.
Well, I can't be specific about like I don't know enough about what the select board is currently, like what's on your table currently
Yeah.
as
I think-
issues.
I think less from like a select board person and more from even just like a resident in Wharton. Like, what do you think?
I think there's an
Mhm.
opportunity to be involved, honestly.
Mhm.
Like, and I think when I first read, the Valley Reporter being like another months ago that said you were shy 2 people, I was like, well, that's something that seems interesting.
Mhm.
And it's a moment of like, as a point where our larger political system is under attack, that there's a way to participate in a way of by just showing up.
Right.
And where the voice is being undermined in other places, like here's a place where I could actually have a voice, right? And do something as
Positive.
opposed to like not knowing what to do
Right.
in a global way.
Yeah.
Because I just can't make an actual dent in that
Right.
system. But here,
Mhm.
it feels like I know people, at least, like, I grew up here, I know, and I care about that. That like, if we can somehow maintain our focus here, that like, there's some ground that we might all be able to stand on and feel good about, as opposed to it being ripped out in front of us.
Yeah.
So like having a little bit of like, there's not control, but it's it's
Civility?
participation.
And
that, like,
civility?
yeah, where we can like monitor and talk about things and
Yeah.
try to like maybe create an open dialogue with something that might be harder.
Mhm.
And we can actually turn towards something that might be really difficult and have a conversation, and we could put resources towards somebody, and like, if we needed a moderator to have a civil conversation, like we could maybe facilitate that. And if we could get 2 people that are having a hard time to like come together and see something, I feel like that would be an effective thing.
Mhm.
Just to like as a powerful moment of very small, but like at least make a connection.
Mhm.
Would be nice.
I think we do that. I think this is, I certainly appreciate this board and the way in which we are cooperative. And everyone is here to do their best by those who live here and visit here. And I think we listen well to one another and often come out on the other side of a conversation with a different opinion than we started, which is important, in my opinion.
And I think one of the things that characterizes this board is that we will spend the time, if we are discussing something that we're going to end up voting on, we'll spend the time going through it if we get the sense that we're not already on the same page. It's not a rush to vote. It's work it around. Let me hear your thoughts again until we can hopefully all
I
vote
have to
together.
say that you nailed it.
Yeah.
I've been here almost 11 years, and I feel that the last couple of years that there's never a vote that's not unanimous.
Yeah.
And they discuss until everyone agrees and listens to every single point,
At
which
least the
I have
opportunity.
to say, I've been to a few board meetings and it's not always that way.
Yeah.
So it is a nice thing that's happening.
Yeah.
So.
And even where it's not unanimous, we still like each other. at the end.
Yeah, right, exactly. We try to get there, get as close as we can, and then we move on.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any further questions. Anything else come to mind, Joel?
Now, do you know?
Anyone else?
I can enter data into QuickBooks.
That has value.
Jim, did you have something you wanted to say?
Just can he identify what the two table leads that his dad built that are in use
Oh,
go to?
yeah.
We do have 2 leaves and no legs.
I have been all over looking for the table that, and I only assumed that your dad did it, because they look super nice.
Yeah.
Do they go to this table?
No.
No,
No,
No.
and, but, or maybe even
Not this one?
take a picture, take him home to your dad and see what he says. That's the only
Randy
thing.
built this one and he also built the one that's in the town.
Mhm.
We didn't.
We've been really lucky.
A lot of hands.
Did you look at the one in the clerk's office? I wonder if they add on.
It does not open.
I did.
Yeah.
But do they add on?
I don't think it does
Mm-mm.
because I think it's about a 10-foot table that we
Okay.
got, 4x10 or something like that.
Well, at least you know who to call now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to show it to you. Great.
Yeah.
All right, well, feel free to ask any questions if they come up as we move through our agenda. Are we good on that?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
Joel.
Dana.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being interested.
Yes.
We do intend to discuss this evening, so hopefully we'll have some decisions sooner rather than later. All right,
we have to get more members.
yeah, we're running into problems.
We're a little challenged.
You guys are gonna
Um,
burn yourself out.
V-Trans. Communication.
I don't know if there's really anything to talk about because we haven't gotten the recommendations from the investigator.
So maybe we just want to state for the record that we've heard back from them, that the inspector did come.
Yeah.
And did an inspection, and that they are writing up a report for us for estimates.
They say that they've identified some modest improvements that could be made to the warning signs in the area, focusing on increasing visibility of the intersection warning signs and adding an advisory yellow speed plaque to the assembly. Once they've drafted some of the recommendations, they'll share it with the town. While signing changes are only as effective as drivers' compliance with them, it is the simplest and quickest improvement that can be made as a good first step.
And so
But they aren't interested in reducing the actual speed.
They didn't say that specifically.
they didn't call that out in here, but I believe his comment about that was something to do with whether there was enough sight line for, they didn't want people going along at 50 or 60 and then suddenly coming down the hill and having people going slower.
He also said that they determine speed based on the average speed that people go,
Right.
and they don't imagine that that would be
Actually goes.
lower, which is, it feels so backwards to me.
Oh,
And it's my understanding that Waitsfield, and I don't remember if Ian told us this when we met with them.
The 40 with Kenyans.
But they've asked for it to be 40, basically from for all of 100 between from Waitsfield line to the Warren line. And I think their thought is that it continues to be 40, like East Warren Road is.
Really?
Yeah.
40?
So they've gone to that.
I mean, I feel like a lot of
Traffic
people are
committee.
going 40 all the time on that road and it
Totally.
drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's just
But
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
also
40 all
maybe
the
that
way.
works.
So I want to point out also that we did ask them about the possibility of a blinking light at Von Braun for trucks entering as per Mary's request. And they said they don't think it's likely that V-Trans would install blinking lights for trucks entering Von Braun Road, as they're used for a variety of purposes around the state with different processes for warranting them and different responsibilities for installation costs and ongoing maintenance. The trucks entering warning, they're typically used in locations of severely restricted sight distance and high truck volumes, and when otherwise deemed necessary. The installation and ongoing maintenance costs are borne by the developer, so that would be us, not V-Trans. And given the sight distances available on Von Braun Road, or on 100 from Von Braun Road, they don't see this as
Right.
an appropriate place for that.
When they did their analysis, they
Right.
didn't find either of those conditions to exist.
Right.
So we have to wait and see what the investigator is going to come up with. Rebecca has reached out to VHB to talk, to come to us and talk about some possible recommendations that we can move forward with on our own
Right.
to try and improve safety and visibility and awareness in that intersection. And I guess we really don't know what that would look like, but are we allowed to plant shrubs or
Right.
install signage of our own on town-owned property? Or I really don't know what that looks like.
So
But we
you
are
reached out to them about the North Main,
about North Main,
Yeah.
West Hill.
and then we would just, if we like those recommendations, we would ask V-Trans if we could do that. I mean,
I think we're asking VHB what we are allowed to do on our own land that doesn't necessarily interfere with V-Trans.
So I
I
thought that because it's an intersection with a state highway that they have to,
So we can't do anything?
that we can't do anything unless they tell us we can.
Like, we can't even plant a something?
I think
I
we
mean,
could
they're gonna
go,
change the,
I think we could go to this traffic committee with recommendations.
right,
From
and then
VHB?
we'd have to ask, yeah.
Yeah, but
And
we'd
we'd
have to
ask
ask permission. We couldn't
permission.
just
We
do
couldn't
it.
just do it.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Have we heard back from VHB?
I've not. I have a tick,
Follow-up?
to follow up with them tomorrow.
And then the other thing that I think they are gonna comment on is the Ellen Lane Route 100
Mm-hmm.
intersection as well, right?
V-Trans or VHB?
V-Trans, sorry, V-Trans.
I think they're intending to do that with their
Report.
investigation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that report should
Yeah.
address that also.
And he did send a while ago some reminders to signage that they had proposed for
Yeah, I know.
West Hill.
Yeah.
That weren't installed. And I think that would be valuable to bring to the meeting with VHB when we get them to pay attention to us.
Yeah.
There are a couple of signs there that might be worthwhile, in particular, given the Ellen Lane issue, the directing people to 100 via West Hill instead of Ellen Lane.
Yeah, he said, I do think there's an opportunity to improve signage along West Hill Road at the intersection with Ellen Lane to help convey to drivers which leg is the straight through movement. And that most of them should be following the West Hill to the right.
Mhm.
And he attached a PDF showing some of the suggested signage improvements
Yeah,
that his team, I guess, generated in a response. Generated in a response to the town a number of years ago. Does not
Yeah.
appear that many, if any, updated from what was previously transmitted to the town.
yeah, and there were a couple of there that I thought were good, that we might want to consider adding.
Yeah. So
As we get responses from V-Trans. So we should put that on our radar.
Yeah, and then he said, reviewing the northerly intersection of Main Street and comparing it with historic photos. I can see what the intent behind the modifications was, but also can see that removing some pavement to narrow and tee up the intersection could potentially provide a further improvement.
But he only saw that happening when D-Chance was doing the
Yeah.
project there.
Yeah, he said, I suspect that whenever 100 is next repaved might be the next opportunity to consider some modest improvements to the intersection geometry. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so that,
and then he, some potential improvements for signage along 100. But he said, I've asked my regional traffic investigator to take a closer look into signage in this area and develop detailed recommendations, which we have not seen yet.
right,
I keep checking my spam just in case.
yeah,
Right. Marcos hasn't, has emailed in, but I haven't seen anything. So,
Okay.
but
When I was in the River Valley Planning District, because that is apparently something I do know. Josh was saying that he's happy to come to a select board meeting if we talk about the Route 100 intersection again, or talk about what V-Trans is doing and kind of walk through the process that they had to go through in Waitsfield when they got all the signs changed coming into Waitsfield.
okay.
Okay. So maybe
if
once we hear
that's-
back from the
Yeah.
investigator.
If that's helpful for other people to hear that it was basically a 2-year process and that they
I
had
think
to
that would
get,
be really helpful.
yeah, like on the
Yeah,
docket for
yeah.
the state
Yeah.
and the governor and all of these pieces
Yeah.
that have to get.
Governor, that's the problem, whatever.
So,
So when we hear back with this more detailed review,
Mhm.
we'll discuss it and we'll hear back from VHB and see if they can engage with us. And maybe at that point, we can
Put
pull
that on
Josh
an
in,
agenda
Mhm.
and
put it on an
Yeah.
agenda.
burn it well in advance so a lot of people are interested in it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I wonder if it makes sense to combine that with a conversation about traffic calming in general with VHB, and will that be the same person? Because we extended our scope for the traffic calming grant in the village, that we still have monies
Oh.
to spend. We
I
ex-
don't know that we want to combine those. Oh, with the.
But we extended that scope to the end of Main Street.
We never extended it,
We didn't extend the
Mm-mm.
physical scope,
correct?
we extended the,
Because you had all asked about sidewalks.
Exactly, that's
Mhm.
why we extended
And
the,
she said if we did sidewalks, we had to go through engineers and.
but what if
That's
we
what
did
we're
other
talking
things?
about. is it too late? I mean,
I'll have to revisit it. I don't,
when we were talking about it, it was to get
About
that sidewalk,
sidewalks.
yeah.
right,
Because,
But-
and I think my comment was the traffic calming from the Brook Road intersection to Route 100
Yeah,
is it's pretty complicated. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not,
just so narrow.
well, it's got a big bridge in the middle of it. It's
Yeah.
not like it's, just some painting or something like that we could put together pretty quickly. Yeah, to me, it's a pretty substantial project, and unfortunately, I feel like they don't have the bandwidth to take on a pretty
Yeah.
substantial project. Now, that grant is
It's
end of this year?
yeah,
Next year. It's
end
2025.
of December this year.
Yeah.
And we have $90,000, of which we've
Yeah.
spent 25. Is that right? Something
yeah, I
like
think it
that.
was roughly 114,000.
Oh, so we have 90,000
Yeah.
outstanding.
Yeah,
Right. And we talked a little bit about some more permanent stuff with the crosswalks and all that.
Yeah.
So we need
Yeah.
to make sure that, I
We
mean,
need
that's
to-
on our ongoing,
and we
I
need
guess.
to change the signage around the crosswalk going to school too.
So we need to make
Pull
some
that back
significant
on.
progress on that piece and make some decisions around traffic calming.
So, but going back to your question about VHB, combining that,
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I'm wondering, is there anything that we can do on our end, like on Main Street, on West Hill, on Ellen Lane, on Von Brown, that can help with that intersection that isn't 100? Do you know what I'm saying? Whether that's
I think what we
signage-
need to get yeah. signage,
we
I
need to get
guess.
an idea from VHB what they recommend
Yeah,
and then go from there.
and that's why I wonder if that's worth adding to the scope of our
Yeah,
traffic calming.
I can
And then
ask
those monies
Jenny.
could be used for any and all recommendations
Yeah.
there,
Right,
because we have significant funds
Right.
and few
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah, I can ask her.
Okay,
I'll reach out to her tomorrow.
let's make sure we follow up with that sooner rather than later. Okay, And I just want to note that the public has requested an opportunity to sit down with V-Trans.
Right.
And so it would be really great if we can try and find a way for that to happen. And maybe Josh can advise on what that could or couldn't look like based on Waitsfield's experience.
Speak to the work that they're doing at the Route 17, Route 100 intersection too.
Right.
Mhm.
Uh, Work.
17 years in the making.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, anything else
Moving
about
right
V-Trans? All right, Warren PTO project manager contract. We sent this over to the attorney for review and received a much larger draft in return.
So what are the highlights, things they've added? These are the things that she said, she felt like we had some wiggle room to change. But the non-highlighted is sort of, she felt
Standard.
like the standard non-negotiable, like we needed to have them in a contract.
Yeah,
Oh, I see. So the whole contract, this whole thing is new. It's not
this is a
like she's-
contract.
Correct.
Yeah. Has everybody had a chance to read it?
No. Did we get an email?
Yes,
Mhm.
we did.
And we're
I missed that.
very delayed
Yes.
in getting this off our desks.
Can we,
Do you want to take a
Give me
minute?
yeah,
5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes?
Good night.
Good night, Jim.
Jim,
You wanna make some benches on your way out?
I told Taylor I'm free tomorrow if you guys need a hand.
Okay. Is he still out there? I was just about to check. I hope he isn't, for my son's sake.
Mm,
Joe, you want a copy to read? I was really hoping you'd have some input.
mm-mm,
No?
no, I think one of them is like maybe a sticking point. And it's the problem we run into all the time, inefficiency. It's more of a requirement. It's sort of about insurance, and
Oh, I know.
the insurance requirements.
I'm sort of hoping that means she can do it through business. If it's a sole proprietor and I have the same concern.
We can talk.
I have two concerns with it. One, the first one is pretty easy. It's the initial review period. It's just that we would meet June 30th, 2025. And they have to produce the progress report and comprehensive plan. She hasn't had a contract up until this date, so I'm like a little bit hesitant about assigning a date to that.
These,
the whole
she just kind of threw stuff in there and that we can change those dates
Okay.
around.
So if we want to do something like that, we should do it now.
Right, like she would need ample notice that that was a requirement.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm also like at a time agreed upon with the select board. Or Rebecca, maybe. So that's my first,
What page was that, Kaylee? Sorry.
that's page number 3,
Number 3.
article 4.
Okay.
And then the other one that I'm just concerned about from Rachel's perspective is the insurance requirement, which is Article 12.
But she does technically need to have a certificate of insurance if we're paying her
As a contractor.
as a
yes.
contractor.
Correct. And she does.
She does?
She does.
Okay, so
Through
then we
Clark
just
Brook
need to
Design?
double check her thresholds.
Yeah, and Sarah Buxton that I worked with from Nick's office, she's sort of their employment attorney. She said that they usually put insurance articles in here, but she wasn't sure how Warren felt about that. But the more I read it, the more I thought about it, I think we do need it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we can't legally pay her unless she has it.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
We should check because some people don't have 2 million in aggregate,
Right, yeah.
and $1 million per. Plenty of smaller
Let
operations have
me,
500,000.
let me check with Dana to see what we require.
Okay.
And she has
Um,
that highlighted, so she may.
Exactly,
Here, so we may not
exactly.
need
So I'll
one
check with
and two.
Dana to see what we ask, from non-employees.
Yeah.
For their,
So that it's in
W-9s
accordance
and
with our
stuff.
policy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that that's appropriate. Let's move back to your first question, Kaylee, which was about the meeting on page, was that 3?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Is it
initial
the whole
review.
timeline or is it just the review?
it's just it's just the
Within-
first initial 10 days at the end of
Right.
the second quarter piece, which made sense 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we could, I mean, I think, how do we want to go about this?
Well, is it because we want her to get paid? She's been doing work,
yeah, she
Right.
has.
so
So I think
You
we
don't wanna
should
push
get a
that back to
review.
September 30th, you want, right?
No, I think it's more like we have the stipulation in here that she needs to provide all of these pieces to us. And while I certainly think she could provide us with like an update of like the progress report of services. But the comprehensive plan for soliciting grants and other funding, I'm not sure like what she's done to date on that.
Mhm.
And June 30th is not really that far away.
Right.
So
But it's not
It's a-
terribly prescriptive. Like
Right.
she
No,
could
it's
just
not.
come to us with what her plan is so far for soliciting grants and other funding.
I'm fine with that if we're okay with that interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I feel like the way it reads, it goes on to say that, you know, we can determine if the progress and plans are adequate and,
In our sole
yeah,
judgment.
and, right, and we're not likely to say, well, you know, you're fired because you didn't have all of that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, maybe it'll make her nervous, I don't know.
my reading was that it's very thorough, and sort of felt like, whoa, but also in my understanding of contract law, it's really important that
Mhm.
most of this is here.
Yeah.
For
It does seem
municipality.
like it's treating her a little bit like, you know, a building contractor or something of that nature.
Materials.
Yeah.
That said, I think it's really important when we look at equipment and materials and personnel, because these people are working on Brooksfield with
Yep.
kids and
Yep.
school, and so these are important
Yes, 100%.
elements.
Yeah.
And I'm very comfortable with this.
Yeah, and for her to read it and understand how important that is, I think.
They also don't know your name. Your name
Yeah, they
is
don't.
different.
I changed
I
it.
know, I was like,
Okay.
Didn't I change it?
Rebecca Coleman in select board.
Oh, is it?
It's under phase 3. It's
I
the
thought I
Coleman.
changed it.
Funny.
this, I might have printed this from the draft that I downloaded.
Oh,
That might be
because
why.
I was pretty sure.
I know, I got to the end, I was like, who's Rebecca Coleman? And Jeff's like, I think that's you. I'm like, I think you're right.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Um,
Does this feel like something that we can approve?
to
Does to
me,
me,
yes.
yep.
Only question I have is there any reason why we would need to make the payment date, the last payment date in 2026 as opposed to 2027, which is what we have?
I think she was just sort of throwing out,
The funds have to be spent by the end of 2026.
yeah.
Is that what you were just asking? So
Yeah,
the
so we
last
just-
payment date,
Just the last payment date is just for services, the invoice is due in
Yeah.
2026, but the last payment is made in 2027.
Just so that she.
But
has
she's
until
not
the
gonna
end of
submit
the-
invoices to us.
according
Yeah,
to
we're
the
just gonna-
ARPA requirements, I think the funds have to be out of the bank in 2026.
They do, they absolutely do.
So that needs to be changed.
Yeah, and I know that, with the way that Dana does end of year stuff, she would probably pay that within the first 2 weeks of December. So I would like to do this piece with Dana.
Yeah.
Mostly because she's the one who's gonna be
Mhm.
writing the checks and she knows when accounts payable is gonna go out.
Mhm.
So I was gonna look at that section,
Mhm.
make it as close to these dates, if you all approve that as possible, but work with Dana
That's fine.
to get those, sort of, so that Rachel can count on.
Yeah.
Those dates.
Okay, great. Yeah, so you'll set these dates with Dana.
Yeah.
And the May 15th one is already passed.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Which means,
So I think what's happening here is that our 4 quarterly payments are being compressed down into 6 quarters.
well,
No.
I would suggest that perhaps upon signing the contract, she gets the first quarter's
Mhm.
payment.
Mhm.
We don't
And
have that in here that way. though.
We
I-
release the
We
second
have
quarter.
we have to see something in order to pay her.
Right, I think we need a deliverable associated
Right.
with it, which
Yeah.
certainly she's been doing work and certainly there's been
But we do
playground
need the
progress, but we
deliverable.
need like something, otherwise it's not gonna.
So then it
Something
makes sense for
changing
that
the
to
dates
be in June
Yes.
and receive the first 2 quarters at
Mhm.
the same time.
Well, we have the second one in July. Which makes sense, cause it's after the second quarter. So it's just like a payment in
Oh,
June
okay.
and a payment in
And then
July,
another
and
one.
that's
Okay.
all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would like to see her
Oh, I see.
come to the Just let me on my spreadsheet here. The June 10th select board meeting. Just give us an update.
Not gonna lie, the community day should also incorporate the playground.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm just pulling up the document, but does it look like we have space? And I think we need to do it, whether we do or not, like we might need to move something else.
No, I think we have plenty of space.
Let's do it. June 10th.
Mhm.
And can we finalize this contract and get it out by Friday?
I think so.
Did you have any other comments, Camilla,
Nope.
on the?
Do
contract?
you all feel, I feel that we need to give Rachel a chance to look at this? Okay, so
Yeah.
I would like to send this, get these dates finalized with Dana, get this sent to Rachel, hopefully before the end of the day tomorrow,
Mhm.
at the very latest Friday morning, and ask her.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys can sign it on the 27th?
I think we should approve it and sign it and give it to her. And
That
if
doesn't
she,
give her any,
if she has any comments or questions, she can come back to us. I mean, well, we don't have to sign it, I guess, but we should finalize it.
Okay.
We should finalize our version
Okay,
and say, here's our version.
Okay.
Please review it.
okay.
Make sure everything's in accordance and let's plan I mean,
Isn't that what
I
you just
usually,
said?
Yeah, it's just sort of
She wants to make the edits.
I wanna
and
make
then
the
get it
edits.
To Rachel.
yeah,
for her to give the final, like, yep, this looks great. Just, so I'd like to produce something for Rachel, because she's been asking. in fairness
absolutely,
to her,
absolutely.
she may have-
What
yeah.
I'm saying is that I don't want that to hold up the opportunity for her to sign and
Right.
sign, seal, delivered.
Right.
Right?
Right,
That's what I'm saying. So what I'd like our board to do is approve this version
Mhm.
With amendments
with the amendments we've just made
suggested, yeah.
and the dates infilled by Dana and Rebecca. And then give that to Rachel, knowing that it has our full support, not that it's wishy-washy or maybe being revised again. And then, I mean, I think one of us can sign it. Or we could empower Rebecca to sign it on our behalf if we so chose. And that would allow it to happen sooner. What are your thoughts?
As long as we've been clear about what the edits are that we are approving.
The edit that we are approving is, we didn't edit
Well,
anything.
they're possibly, I mean, there are a couple of them, right?
Mhm.
We are
There's a-
confirming that the insurance requirement is
Insurance
in alignment
requirements.
with our policy
Yeah,
at
right.
the town level.
Yeah.
And allowing Rebecca and Dana to fill in the payment dates
And then correcting Rebecca's name.
and correcting Rebecca's name.
And also the initial review period. We're changing that?
No,
No, we
we
decided not
decided
to.
keep
Yeah.
it.
Oh, okay.
We feel like it's broad enough that we can
Okay.
move forward.
I feel
So, are we-
comfortable with that.
Moving to approve, make a motion to approve the contract for services for the WPTO with the edits as just enumerated,
The project manager contract.
project manager contract, right?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nice work, Rebecca.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great job.
Painful. Thank you to Sarah, because it was like this like long drawn out, like almost an hour long phone conversation with her to help her draft. She basically took, the
Understand.
original one and to understand it. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a
But
lot.
she did a great job.
I think so.
So,
It wasn't a straightforward one to write
No.
in any way.
No.
No, I think
No,
she did a
it
really
was-
good job.
she was like, I think I
I'm really glad we
captured
did it that
everything.
way.
But yeah, this is much better. Yeah.
Feel better about it.
I think if Rachel doesn't have any changes, you can probably just send this around electronically for us to sign.
Okay.
Or let us know and we can come in and sign it.
Okay. Works.
I'm around this week.
Awesome.
Okay.
I can sign.
I
All
was
right,
out of town as of tomorrow.
so an electronic signature from Camilla, and then we can sign in person, or we can all do it electronically, whatever works.
Yep.
Great,
Cool.
awesome. Thank you, Rachel, for your patience and your continued work despite our glacial pace.
Your email was perfect, George, yesterday.
Town garage update.
The only update is that we had a meeting today where Wyman Lampier, what's the word I'm trying to say?
They want
Presented the set of plans, detailed set of plans with the most recent updated changes. And REARC was part of that meeting. And it was very comprehensive.
Yeah.
I think it looked good, and I think REARC was pretty happy with, you know, the level of detail that they saw in it as well.
Yeah, they were very thorough. That was great. That each time the estimator from REARC asked a question of Steve,
Yeah,
they had already had the information available, which
Yeah.
was awesome.
yeah, it was
Really
good.
struck gold with them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really good. They're really good, I
Really
think.
good.
And then, so the next step would be for REARC to get back to us with when they think they can get a budget number together.
Yeah.
Right?
I think my child absconded with his bicycle before the very end of the meeting. Is that what they said? Did they give us any approximation?
Basically,
Of time?
no, I think I have a couple of questions to ask Andrew.
Right.
Yep.
And I'm hoping he's gonna touch base. He called right at the end of the day, but it was mostly for the storm damage update. I asked him to call me tomorrow, to ask him those two questions.
And then you'll get back to
And then I'll get
them.
back to them.
And
And I
our
think
previous timeline was like
Yeah, what was
June
the-
20th or something for an estimate to be back to us.
so.
I think they had like
Sounds
3
about right.
weeks, 3 to 4 weeks
Mhm.
to turn their
Yeah.
first estimate.
They
around.
were impressed with the turnaround from Women Lamfair.
Yeah, they were.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, and they've
Yeah.
done a bunch of work. They had a few little things to continue to update or to change after our meeting today.
Yeah.
Small things.
Yeah.
And then they'll start putting together a price.
Cool.
fingers crossed.
And hopefully it's a reasonable price.
I'm so grateful and thankful. It's a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Is
And
there
we-
such a thing?
and it doesn't feel much like that.
Yeah.
But it was good. And I think we have good confidence in the team that's working on it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
They're
Yeah.
excited about this
Yeah.
project. so.
And I really appreciated, you know, Wyman Lampier and REARC, separate from us, when we were going over details, they were doing the active thinking of, you know, what if we do it this way? That'll save some, you know, money. Will that be better in the long run? You know, that kind of thing. Just kind of, it just, you know, the same sensibilities that we have towards it. We want it to be durable. We want it to be, you know, the best it can be and not be unnecessary cost.
So yeah, the conversation seems to always be, is that an unnecessary
Right.
expense? Is there a return on that expense? Is that for the betterment of the building and its inhabitants, or is it unnecessary?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We could do this, but, you know, so it's good to have that conversation.
Totally.
Have we had anyone in the town committee look at other sources of funding yet beyond the bond book? Have we started looking
what
at
happened with that?
USDA grants?
You reached out on that, yeah?
I have not reached out on that one.
Oh,
I think it was, Becca Balance office.
yeah.
They had some congressional funding. We actually got an email yesterday saying that we were not
Oh,
chosen,
Mm.
for their list of projects. There's a possible salt shed grant, that we could get money for. The problem is that a lot of times with grants, you have to have
the numbers.
budget,
Yeah.
you know, kind of, you know, some things in place, and we don't have stuff like that yet.
Yeah.
We did, I did go to a, VLCT training on, managers and administrators last week. And, the USDA is a little upside down right now. And
They all are.
they've been stripped of
A little,
everything.
yeah.
They're still a group, but they've been stripped of everything. And a lot of the other, managers and administrators are basically saying that they have active grants going on with them right now and they can't get a hold of anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that eventually we can,
Yeah, I
you
was just
know,
gonna say,
poke
the
that,
timing
but
on that grant may be such that we could apply for it next spring
Mhm.
or whatever.
Yep.
And just the bond vote would say up to a certain amount of money. And
Right.
if we get grants against it, then we don't have to borrow that much.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But other than that. I
So,
don't know.
right.
And that makes sense at like the federal level right now, none of the
Right.
grants are actually real and it's
Yeah.
hard to tell what is real.
Exactly.
And it's hard for us to make much progress on like even what the bond vote or
Right.
bond would look like and
Yeah.
how that would affect us because
Without-
we
without
really
really
don't
knowing,
know
yeah.
what the cost is.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we are
That's
we
the
are
big
trying
piece
to get ourselves
get.
aligned to be ready to do those
Yeah.
things though.
I think the only reason I brought it up was because I guess it just seems like there's some case studies out there of how other towns have paid for things like this beyond just the bond vote. So it seems like maybe we
Yeah.
could do a quick
Mhm.
dive in that area.
In a
Again.
land where grants were available.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always worth looking at.
Mhm.
I haven't spent any time on that lately.
But anyone who wants to look into it. Okay, anything else on town garage? We do not currently have a date set for the estimate coming back from Europe, just letting everyone know. So
And
we don't
have
know
a
when that's
estimate
going.
date for the bond vote. yet
We do,
either. We
we're planning for November 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, given the timeline for Act 250 primarily,
Mhm.
we don't have a choice.
Okay.
There isn't really an earlier time we could do it unless we were comfortable with spending a lot of money before we knew if we would get a yes bond,
Right,
which we're not,
Mhm.
right.
so. Okay, action items, after our meeting this evening.
I have, making sure Andrew's got appropriate signage, around Warren for storm damage, areas. I've been tasked with chatting with Granicus about, taking a second look at the list, and seeing if they can, dig deeper into that. Asking them about account access, with one read-only account. I have Melissa talk to Brent about getting, stuff to me sooner, aka the Grand Fondo, permit.
Maybe just ask him what happened. with
Yeah,
it. It's a
exactly.
bit odd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened with that. Talking work out with Dana Community Day, trying to figure out a date, checking with the other committees and groups.
It does feel like a bit of a push to try and make that happen in June. Just, I'm in a little bit of agreement with that.
Yeah.
Push.
Yeah.
To pull off.
I'm going to reach out to Jenny Lavoy, asking her if we can change the traffic calming scope for that grant for the north end to
To
have it
include the north
to
end.
include the north entrance.
Yeah,
Also going to talk to Josh about what it looked like in Waitsfield to have a public forum with V-Trans, and if he can give us
I don't
any.
even know if they did have a public forum. with
Okay.
veterans.
So
It-
I'll just talk to Josh about
What the
in
process
general.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
and I guess let him know that we would like to take him up on the offer to come
Yeah,
chat with us once
exactly.
we get our review
Exactly.
from Ian and.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'm gonna work on Rachel's.
Going back
oh,
to that,
yep.
while you're at MRVPD, you want to talk to Sam about the Granicus?
Oh, yeah.
The other thing that we were wondering about Granicus while you talk to them is if they're anticipating that the registration process is what fills in the gaps in the properties listed versus the grand list.
Yeah.
or if it's something that they usually see like the town doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Send out the list of everyone in town and then see what you get.
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Cause she said that I specifically asked, like, if there are, word of mouth rentals, that they're not on any of these platforms, how does Warren,
Mhm.
know about these? And she said,
Well,
unfortunately,
yeah, I mean, we're not gonna get 100%.
Exactly,
But that
exactly.
should be the 2%.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
Right.
2%.
the
Right.
25%,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna work on Rachel's contract, and that's it.
Awesome.
Mhm. We have anything to do?
So much to do. We have so much to do. We want to make sure that we follow up on traffic calming. You're gonna follow up with VHB.
Yep, I have a.
That's
text for
already
that
on your
tomorrow.
thing, and
can
we
get
want to
it
make
on
sure
an
that we
agenda.
move that along, because if we want to do any significant work, it happens in the summer.
Mhm,
Yeah.
The grant's gonna expire and we should use that money.
absolutely.
Awesome. You want to sign some stuff?
There's a lot of stuff in there to sign.
There's a lot of stuff in here to sign. I signed the Grand Fondo. It looks like it only needs one, so I think that's fine. Washington County Sheriff's Department, law enforcement contract.
This is just their official.
This is the
That was
official
a-
contract that we
Yeah.
get each year. Thank you,
Thank
Joel.
you. Thanks a lot.
We'll be in
Um,
touch.
But can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Other business here?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
just- I
Other
just want-
business? Do we
I-
have one?
We don't.
I just wanted to find out if anything has started. They opened the gap?
Yep, it was open on the 15th.
Okay. So is
The speed tapes have been put out.
Okay, good.
And the sheriff's department, they've been up there.
Yeah.
So because Brett sent me an email, and said that there are no speed limit signs basically from, the pavement part to, basically Hanks,
At the house. Yeah.
road. And ironically, Jeff and I went over on Friday
Mhm.
and there aren't.
Hmm.
And Andrew and Chris went up and there aren't. So Andrew doesn't know if they were stolen, taken, or what the deal is, but he has ordered some more signs, and he's gonna get them put up.
Hard to go the right speed limit when you don't know where
Interesting.
it is.
Right,
Weird. Okay.
so
Sorry. that was
So,
just
but,
something I
but the
noticed.
sheriff's department is up there.
they're up there. I mean, they are up there anyways. They're
There's
not,
nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
Let's,
I think we want them to be
Yeah,
up there.
exactly.
Yeah. So-
speaking of the sheriff's department, they're charging us $66 an hour.
Mhm.
For overtime and holiday rate is 99.7 per mile plus 10 cents.
But they can't go over the budget of 43,000.
Right. Yeah.
$680
Yeah.
is the total contract price.
So
And are you our designated liaison?
Mhm.
Awesome. Do I have a motion to approve the Washington County Sheriff's Department contract?
Move to approve the Washington County Sheriff Department contract.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That goes together and there's a paper clip. We can put that back on. The Northfield Savings Bank line of credit. I have not read this contract in its entirety.
I don't intend to.
Rebecca.
That's what Dana and Rebecca do.
It's boilerplate.
Seen them before.
Yeah,
Okay,
A lot of places to sign.
yeah, there's,
yeah,
she's tagged it.
so 4.8% per annum
Yeah, it's pretty low
Yeah.
considering.
for $1 million.
So the line of credit, in case we need to,
In case we need it.
for cash flow. while we're waiting for
I think we
taxes.
already approved this.
We did, this is just paperwork for the bank.
Just paperwork for the bank,
Yeah.
so we're just signing.
We all have signed? Yep.
Yes, and we all have our own special place to sign. And one more. All right, a liquor license, third-class hotel license for Sadie Dog. That is the Pitrin.
I move we approve the third class license for Sadie Dog.
Third class is which one again?
Yeah.
Yep.
Who knows?
Sure
You
is.
put your little cheat sheet in there.
He did?
Uh-huh.
I guess it was something that was highlighted from Brent.
Is it attached to it? No?
That's all clipped together. It's like a loose.
Oh, it's right
one
there.
Right there.
Ah. A first-class license allows an establishment to serve beer and wine. If they intend to serve spirits, they must also apply for a third class.
So that's what this is.
Where's the second class?
Yeah, don't go
I don't think there is one.
We've had that.
No wonder it doesn't make any sense. It's the 13th floor. Would you like to second this?
Second.
Third class for spirits. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, payroll and accounts payable. So, oh wait, before we do that, we have more liquor licenses. Sorry,
I do?
we
Yeah,
do.
there's two of them, I think.
Third
probably-
class for Sugarbush Mountain Resort.
Cool. Move to approve third class liquor license for Sugarbush Mountain Resort.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What, are they the same? There's another one, third class restaurant and bar. Would you like to sign this one too? I don't know. 1840, 1840. These look like two of the same one.
They're not a first or a third or anything?
They're third class bar and restaurant. They're exactly,
PDA, is it a different, or address?
Is there, we'll look
Different
for the
business
name. on them.
business address, the same,
Business address is Mending Walls. Oh,
business address.
Matthew.
Look for the name on the second page, because it's now because they serve beer at the
Allen's
Shard.
Lodge. Allen's Lodge.
Yes,
But is there a name associated with it?
yeah.
Julia Gross, Julia Gross. Allen's Lodge is the physical location.
Julie Goss.
I don't know, Brent just puts these in my box.
These are
let's
these
sign
are
both.
both the same.
So I guess I would sign them both.
Yeah.
And then if there's one that maybe
Slightly different.
is slightly different, I don't.
Yes, ma'am.
Rita said that she just used to
Oh, sorry.
sign them and be done with them, but
You did. You got the sheriff's from me. Okay, accounts payable and payroll, sorry, thank you.
Approve payroll in the amount of $60,600.41.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to approve accounts payable in the amount of $5,957,668.54.
I have
Wow.
that's the tax
Second.
payment. Yeah, education tax.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow when I saw it. It's like, holy smokes.
How did I do that to us?
It's only gonna get worse.
This whole sitting in the middle thing is just not working for me.
Yeah, we need more people around the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Wait,
next
I
on the
already signed
agenda.
this one.
I feel like it's time some of these twice. I don't know.
What? Oh,
That one
Oh,
is just that.
just the
was-
top
yeah,
sheet?
Yeah. just
Okay,
the top
great.
sheet.
Thank you, Camilla. Okay, this is,
Those are capital
Okay,
payments
I
that just
signed
you
that
sign.
this is me learning.
I already
Still,
signed
you already
that one.
signed that one.
Everybody's gotta sign that education tax. that
Oh,
you
is that
just
what-
put, yeah, that one right there. Everybody's gotta sign that.
Everyone has to sign that.
Thank you.
Please, everybody sign that.
Not this one though. This is what Camilla already signed.
Nope, you have to see down in the bottom.
We don't-
Oh, yes,
I
because
did.
that's
CBC
payment to
We
you.
had to do that.
That's
yes.
payment to you, so
Yeah.
you can't
Oh, I
sign it.
can't sign it.
But the rest of those is just your signature.
Okay.
I can do that. Do I hear a motion to move to executive session for personnel?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to the bathroom.
Thank you all very much. Please
Close-
end
yep,
the
yep, yep,
recording.
yep, yep.
Thank you very much.